There's a lot of science in it as far as, surface tension and friction and gravity and balance and all those different things. And it's just part of why I find it so fascinating.
That is Catherine Morris.
When you carve the sculpture, you have to think about the sun and when it sets and how it's going to cast shadows on it, because the light and the shadows really puts a lot of detail on it.
For my day job, I've been sent to interview sculptors before, but Catherine is the first one I'd met like this.
I've never taken an art class. Not even a drawing class.
It's not just that she does really cool work or that she didn't get some sort of formal education in art. It's what her art is made out of.
I'm from Wyoming. I'm a Wyoming native. And so I had never really had a lot of experience with sand. Just fell in love with it and realized I could do this and just really enjoyed the process. So it was addictive.
On this episode of That Doesn't Happen Every Day, in which we interview everyday people about things that don't normally happen every day, we interview someone who puts the passion and energy that most sculptors reserve for more permanent media, like marble or metal, into something most people take for granted, something that the Wyoming wind is all too eager to carry away.
I'm ranked as an advanced amateur, so I'm not a pro yet. It takes quite a few years to get good enough to be a pro.
In talking with Catherine, I learned that sand sculpting is its own world.
To do it competitively on a high level, it's invitation only. So you kind of should post pictures and stuff, and eventually they see that you're good enough, maybe you'll get invited.
Apparently there are sand snobs. Catherine actually is really quick to add.
They're great people. You have a lot of fun. I've competed in Siesta Key, Florida. I've done Port Aransas, Texas, at the Texas Sand Festival 4 times. I've done Cannon Beach, Oregon.
Given that Wyoming is thousands of miles from any of these locations or any oceanside beach, you have to ask yourself how someone from the middle of one of America's very, very landlocked states got into sand sculpting.
I went on vacation with my family to Destin, Florida in 2019 and built my first sandcastle and just really got addicted with the sand and what you can make it do.
She describes what the first sandcastle looked like.
A small pile of sand with a few windows. It was pretty rough. And then the next day I did a mop dog because I realized I could make the sand run and look like hair.
A mop dog is also known as a komondor, a kind of Hungarian sheepdog that has fur that really does look like strands of a mop. In fact, if you remember the cover of Beck's album Odelay, it had a mop dog on it.
And I was very fascinated with how you could make the sand do different things and the compaction of it and stuff, and then the light and how you could bring it to life. After
that beginning and numerous sculpting trips around sandy places in the U.S., Catherine still finds places to sculpt sand in Wyoming. That's where I caught up with her on Sandy Beach at Glendo Reservoir in eastern Wyoming.
People say, I don't know how you have the patience. Well, this is quite fast. I've only been working on this thing for 4 days. You do a granite sculpture, they spend years on them.
Catherine has roped off an area about the size of a parking space on the beach where she's sculpting a fish springing out of the sand. It's over 6 feet tall, and its body is curved into a J. Its tail fins are on the short end of the J, sticking up out of the sand, sculpted to look like waves as it propels the rest of its body up into the air. Its mouth is open, as if maybe trying to get a bug in the air. Its eyes are wide, and the dots on its back are actually dug into the sand itself.
This fish, because the circles are hollowed out and he's basically been skinned, I may put finger lights in him tonight after dark, and so you'll see the silhouette of this fish out there. I don't know for sure if I will. I've been out here a while. It depends on how tired I am.
I asked Catherine about people's reactions to this work of art amid the whine of speedboats and scattered rectangles of beach towels.
They can't believe how tall it is. They can't believe that you can carve a hole all the way through it, or, just the size of it, or the fact that it stands straight up and, This sand is part of the Kilpecker Formation. It was from when the glaciers formed the Rocky Mountains. And so this sand is granite-based and quite angular, quite boxy. Florida sand, Pensacola, Destin sand, is been rolled in the ocean. It's not granite. It's football-shaped or marble-shaped. And you can stack it, but you got to be very particular when you do it. If you think about at the grocery store, you pull the orange out of the wrong place at the grocery store and the whole pile falls down, that would be Florida sand. This is box sand, so I tell people, think of Jenga. you can pull one of the squares, you can pull quite a few of the squares and it'll still stand. So I like this sand. Like this fish that's behind me, he's quite vertical, and Florida sand, it's very difficult to sculpt that down in Florida. They're more pyramid shaped with more support and stuff. The master sculptors and the semi-pros that sculpt down there at those big competitions, they do fantastic artwork, but they're confined to the limitations of that sand, and that sand in Florida that's native to their beaches is weaker than this sand. This is quite strong sand.
So while that coarseness of the sand between your toes at a beach in Wyoming might not feel as good as one by Pensacola, it does have its uses. Catherine explains the first step of what she does, and if you've ever wondered why your sandcastle didn't hold up, this might be why.
It's called a pound up, and you use forms, and the smallest forms for people who are more doing smaller kind of sculptures, 5-gallon bucket with the bottom cut out and put on the beach upside down so the handle edge is on the beach and the base is in the air, and you fill it with sand and water, and you can't have any air pockets or anything. You pound it up and get it really tight. Well, this fish needed bigger than that, so I used plastic, wound it into a cylinder and clamped it off, and it was an open-ended cylinder. Put sand and water and use a tamper to compact it. I was actually at one point in time standing on the top of that fish, pounding it up with a construction tamper and my body weight. And then you sculpt from the top down. So you undo the plastic on the top part and sculpt it. Then undo the plastic on the next layer and sculpt that. I'm using a big sheet of foam to kind of smooth some of the waves. Spoons, spatulas, concrete trowels, frosting spatulas with their tip cut off, mechanical pencils. I use a paintbrush to wet the sand where I want it. It just really depends on what it is you're trying to do.
The amount of thought that Catherine puts into how the environment will interact with these sculptures adds a whole nother level to it.
Carving through different things so you can see sunlight on the other side. Positioning the fish like the sun may set into his mouth. I think it's the magic of what you can get it to do.
I asked Catherine if becoming a sand sculptor has affected how she sees other kinds of sculpture now.
I appreciate sculptures and stuff as far as the balance and the shape of things, and now I'll look at a sculpture and I'll think, could I do that in sand? Maybe, maybe not. Sand has a certain parameter as far as the balance and stuff and the overhang and how much you can get before it collapses. I can appreciate the art of, in a museum and stuff like that. It's just, this is a totally different thing. This is ethereal. Mother Nature is going to take this back. It is not going to last. The wind's going to blow it away. The rain's going to wash it away. Little castle kickers might kick it over. It bothers me when somebody intentionally destroys them. That bothers me. The same with any other artwork. But on the other hand, you put it on a public beach, and honestly, if people just left this alone, this would be here for more than a month.
The idea of anything made out of sand lasting that long on a public beach seems crazy, but I can tell you for a fact that I came to the same beach about 10 days later with my kids, and not only was her sculpture still there, but it still looked good. The fact that it hadn't been knocked over or hacked up or messed with gave me a sense of reassurance in my fellow man, and even in the countless numbers of kids who probably walked by it, but chose not to mess with it. In fact, up to 5 weeks later, Catherine's fish was still on the beach and was still looking pretty good.
It would be the wind that would take it. As it blows, as it erodes and takes the individual grains away, then eventually it will fall.
I asked Catherine if she's sad that she won't be able to keep her work safe and on display forever, like the works of Michelangelo or Rodin.
No, I don't need it. I can go back and I can do it again. It's kind of therapeutic in that you make a mistake and you don't like it, it's going to be gone. It's not going to be there anymore. You can try again later. It took some time to learn to be able to be done. Pack up your gear, take your photos, go to the car, and don't look back. Don't even look. Don't even watch. And when you walk away and you're finished, only sand and whatever water is left in it is sitting on the beach.
If you would like to see the sculpture of the fish we talked about today, please go to Facebook and visit Just Dig It Sandcastles. You can see more of Catherine's work there and even get in touch with her if you would like to schedule a sandcastle lesson or hire her for a birthday party or a corporate event. Anyway, you know where to find her, and I'll also link it in the description. I want to thank you for listening today. If you've enjoyed this episode, please do a search for That Doesn't Happen Every Day podcast. Every day is 2 words in this case, and you can listen to every episode I've done in the past completely for free. Shout out to KHOL for playing this show. I hope to have another episode to you in about 2 weeks.